talking, nagging, lucha watching, puro viewing, indie supporting, drinking, cursing, son of a gun of a podcast. Join former pro wrestler and promoter Dave Dynasty and co-host Ike Isaacs as they talk wrestling and interview those within the business, bringing positivity back to pro wrestling. This is the Dave Dynasty Show.
Greetings and welcome to the Dave Dynasty Show. I am your host, Dave Dynasty, and thank you for joining us for this special episode. We had some other things planned that I was going to do, and I kind of pushed those back a little bit because I wanted to do a little special episode as a tribute and to pay our respects to Road Warrior Animal, who recently passed away. And it's hard to overlook, and it's hard not to do something to acknowledge it because of the impact that the Road Warriors had on the wrestling business. And you know, it's whether you loved them or you hated them as a performers, there is no doubt that you had to respect what they did and how they changed the business. The fact that there is something called a Road Warrior pop is a term that is used. I mean, that is very telling to the impact they had. So we're gonna look a little bit at their career. We're not gonna go super long, super in depth. Just gonna hit some high points and share with you some of my memories of encountering them and watching them through their career. And we're also going to have on a guest. My co-host Ike Isaac spoke with Mr. Electricity, Steve Regal, who of course teamed with gorgeous Jimmy Garvin to defeat the Road Warriors for the AWA tag titles. And we got Steve to come on and share some of his experiences and talk a little bit about his memories of Road Warrior Animal. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll look a little bit at the career of Road Warrior Animal. 2020 has been the year of things happening that are completely out of our control. But there is one thing you can control, and that is shaving your bush. That's right. Our sponsors at Manscaped are here to remind you to do so. Now, we've all experienced the quarantine, and when you don't go out in public a lot or you don't go to work as much, you tend to forget the personal grooming habits that you're used to. Well, the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0 is a premium electric trimmer that's designed to give you a confidence boost through body image. It's very important to groom even during this time. Their ceramic blade and skin-safe technology are designed to reduce nicks or tugs on you fellas down low. The Lawnmower 3.0 is also waterproof and comes with an LED light, so you can manscape in the shower, in the dark, or in a dark shower, whatever floats your boat. They also just released their Shears 2.0 nail kit, which is the perfect add-on to their Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer. The Shears 2.0 is a luxury 4-piece nail kit featuring tempered stainless steel tools, and it includes tipped tweezers, rounded point scissors, fingernail clippers, and a medium grit nail file. The Shears 2.0 nail kit allows you to pluck your eyebrows and trim your nails in style. On their website, you'll also find the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. This will help you tame that summer swamp ass with natural hydrators and antioxidants. You'll also find the Crop Reviver, a testy toner that's like having cologne that is designed for your balls. We won't judge you if we catch you sniffing yourself. Go to manscaped.com and check out some of these life-changing products. In fact, listeners of the Dave Dynasty Show will get 20% off plus free shipping with the code DYNASTY20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code DYNASTY20. It's time to grab 2020 by the horns by shaving that front trunk. All right, and we're back here on the Dave Dynasty Show as we remember the career of Road Warrior Animal. And let's talk about his start, right? He obviously grew up in Minnesota, and he's part of that infamous group of guys who were bouncers, bodybuilders in the Minnesota area, the Rick Rudes, the Kurt Hennings, the Scott Nortons, all these guys that were in that area. And then he went and he trained with Eddie Sharkey and ended up going to Georgia. And in November of 1982, Animal debuted as the Road Warrior. That's where the name started. The look was very, very different as he was wearing a jean jacket, a little biker cap, some jean shorts. It was different, but it was still starting to go down that vein. But in November of 82, Animal debuted as just the Road Warrior.
All we know about him is that he is the Road Warrior, and that he is here to have action, and he certainly has an ample opportunity right now to prove himself. Very calm, very methodical, and yet he has an explosive fury about him when he then moves into action against an opponent. But certainly wasted no time whatsoever in totally destroying his opponent as he got inside the ring.
And then if you move on up, they decided that they were going to take, Animal quit. He wasn't making much. He wasn't doing much. After a few matches, he kind of quit there. But ended up coming back, and they placed him with Hawk, who these guys had known each other for a long time from Minnesota. And they created them as a team, and they called them the Road Warriors, and then gave them individual names of Hawk and Animal. They proclaimed them the National Tag Team Champions. There was a fictitious tournament that they supposedly wanted to win the tag titles, but there was no tournament. They just gave them the tag titles, said, "You're our champs." And they debuted on Georgia television on June 11th, 1983, and they debuted as champs. This was their first appearance together as a team, and they were playing it off like they had won this tournament. They had been around for a bit and won these tag titles, but they strapped the rocket to them big time, pushed them to the moon, and their look was starting to evolve a little bit. This time they were wearing black leather. It was a little more of a biker look. It was starting to go more down that direction that we would come to know from the Road Warriors.
And the Road Warriors moving out. They are the new National Tag Team Champions.
So soon after, they leave. They go to the AWA, right? They get a little more money. It didn't take them long, where they shaved the heads with the mohawks. They applied the makeup. They went on to Minneapolis, kind of their familiar territory. They knew a lot of the guys there. They ended up coming to the AWA. They were brought in as heels, but because of their style, because of their approach, fans really got behind them, and they just couldn't keep them as heels, right? They started getting cheer. They started getting the pops from the crowd, and they became faces. And on August 25th, 1984, they defeated the Crusher and Baron von Raschke to win the AWA Tag Team titles.
We want to talk about the World Champions, the Tag Team Champions, and their manager, Precious Paul Ellering. Of course, I'm talking about the Road Warriors. Who's next? Who's next for the Legion of Doom?
We've just seen, as you said, has-beens. Now, there are a lot of will-bees that want to come after these two men here because we are the champions, because the one letter that separates champs from chumps is U and A. So whoever it may be, whether it be Greg Gagne, Jim Brunzell, whether it be Tony Atlas and Jim Brunzell, whether it be Larry Henning and his son Kurt, whether it be Nick Bockwinkel and Mr. Saito, it doesn't matter because we stand alone on top of the hill, number one, and you're all contenders. And until you prove that you're worthy of a title shot, you will remain contenders. Tell them off. Hey, I'm trying to figure out if these Canadian people are worthy enough to see the Road Warriors in action. I'm trying to figure out if anybody is worthy enough to see the Road Warriors in action. I'm trying to figure out a lot of things, but I know one thing I got figured out, is that me and the Animal are going to stomp straight wherever we go. Tell them, big man. Hey! AWA! You got the Fab! You got the Henning! You got Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell! Are you Canadian people stupid? Nobody beats the Warriors! It's cold, hard, fast! The Warriors are number one World Tag Team Champs! And ain't nobody ever gonna beat us! Let's get out of here! That's right, we're Lords of the Rings and Merchants of Destruction!
They are the Road Warriors, Precious Paul Ellering, Hawk, and Animal. They hold the title.
They would hold those titles for just about a year or so, a little over a year, September 29th, 1985. They lost them to the unlikely team of Steve Regal and Jimmy Garvin. Now, I'm not saying the team is unlikely, but the fact that they defeated the Warriors for the tag titles is a little unique, right? It seems a little odd that why would it be them? And we got a guy who's going to come on here and talk to us about this, about his interactions with the Road Warriors, about losing the AWA tag titles to them. We have none other than Mr. Electricity, Steve Regal himself, one half of the team that defeated the Road Warriors for the AWA tag titles in 1985. So let's go to my co-host, Ike Isaacs, who now has Mr. Electricity, Steve Regal.
Today we are taking a look back on the career of Road Warrior Animal. And today we're joined by someone who has had a first-hand experience, Mr. Electricity, Steve Regal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to talk to you guys. I love talking about Animal. He was a good man.
Absolutely. But we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it here. Steve, so on September 29th, 1985, you and gorgeous Jimmy Garvin defeated the Road Warriors to win the AWA tag titles. Now, the rumor has always been that Vern Gagne, one of the fabulous ones, to win the titles, but the Warriors refused to drop the belts to them. Is that something that you had heard at that time?
Yeah, I had heard that, yes, but, the best thing about that was I knew Joe and Mike personally, and they were good friends, and, they were businessmen, and they just, they could do whatever they wanted, you know what I mean? They had that much pull, so, yeah, we were good friends, and, that's business,
Right. No, absolutely. So to kind of follow up on that, when was it, when and how was the decision made for you and Garvin to win the titles?
Actually, the night of the show, that's the first time we heard of it. So I don't know what happened backstage, but when we're in the dressing rooms, we're just farting around, getting ready to go do our match, right?
Right.
So they came in and said, "Hey, we want you to do this, this, and this, and you're going to take the tag belts tonight." We said, "What? You're going to beat the Rollers?" Said, "What?" And we said, "Well, okay, if that's what you want." So yeah, that's what we did. Whatever they wanted, they were paying us.
That's right. So to kind of even follow up on that, even, we even kind of mentioned that, there had been the rumor that, the Road Warriors weren't exactly willing to just drop the belts. But why do you think that they agreed to drop to you?
Well, I honestly believe it's because I was friends with them and they liked me. I honestly believe that's 90% of the decision that was made, because you're right. They weren't going to do it for the fabulous ones. And I knew both of them very well, and they said, "Let's just drop it to Griggs and Garvin,"
Right. No, absolutely. And I guess that, it helps to, have some friends of the business, of course, to have that relationship.
Yes.
They feel comfortable doing that, of course.
Exactly.
But of course, as many of us know, the Warriors, they were incredible. They were incredible tag teams. So, what was it like working with Hawk and Animal at this time? I mean, they were really young and green, and they were, from what we've heard, they like to work a little stiff.
Yeah, they were green, they were stiff. We were probably, I don't know, 85. They'd probably been working 2 years full time, maybe a little more, a little less, I forget. But yeah, they were stiff, and they were, But then again, we got stiff back with them, and told them, settle down. You're going to break my jaw. So
right.
You just had to calm down, because they got so excited with their gimmick. When they got in the ring and the people and the cheers and all the stuff that was going on. They were so hyped up, man. You had to calm them down, say, hey, relax a minute, They were really excited, but they were very easy to work with, to wrestle with, if they knew you and liked you. If they didn't like it, they're going to beat the shit out of you, whether you like it or not.
That's right. No, yeah. And that's actually, what I've heard a lot of is, especially in those early days, that was kind of their routine, get in there, rough them up, and get them out. And, But it's good to hear that if they liked you a little bit, they eased up just a little bit.
Exactly. Because, hey, realistically, come on, the guys are 265 pounds. Me and Garvin are 210, 220 when we were soaking wet. So, right. They could have punched us out in 10 seconds, So they had to make it believable, No,
absolutely. To even kind of follow up on that a little bit, it's always been said that soon after the Warriors actually had a falling out with Vern and had bigger money opportunities in the Mid-Atlantic. Was this something that you heard around the time, and was it clear that the Warriors' days were numbered in that business?
In the AWA, I didn't know that until actually the week before that night. I knew something was going on, but Vern brought them in there, and they were making good money, and they were the champions, but they got a better offer from Mid-Atlantic, and hey, Vern was pissed, Vern and Greg were pissed, but hey, you got to go where the money is. They gave their notice, they told them what they were doing, tough luck, pay them more money and they'll stay, Right. That's how our business worked. We were all a bunch of whores, and whoever paid the most bucks, that's where we went.
I feel like that's probably the simplest way to put it. You got to follow the dollar, especially in a business like this where, the dollar doesn't always come easy.
You could get your leg broke tomorrow, whatever, and there's no hospitalization or health insurance in the wrestling business. You're self-employed, brother, you know?
Right. Absolutely. So, we've talked a lot about the Warriors, some of their early stuff and, kind of some rumors that, arose with their time in the AWA. But let's focus a little bit on Animal. What was he like away from the ring and in the locker room?
He's a totally different person. Joe was a family man. He loved his kids. He loved his family. He was just a good guy. When I got out of business, probably in the late 80s, he'd call me once a month, say, "How you doing, man? What's going on? What are you doing?" Just out of the blue, call me. I was back home in Indianapolis, and we'd chit and chat, but he was a good friend. Mike was too. Mike was just a wild man, God bless him. But Animal was a calm one, and Joe, I'm so sorry he died at the age of 60. God, I'm going to be 70 in next August, and I just can't imagine dying at 60. He went to sleep. I don't know if he had a heart attack, I assume that's what it was, but 60 years old, and he was in pretty good shape. So, you never know, brother, when your time's coming,
No, absolutely. You never know when the old ticker's going to tick its last tick, and you never know, what's going to happen tomorrow. So, live the day for what it is.
That's right. Exactly.
But to even follow up on that, obviously, I'm sure like you said, you had a pretty good relationship with him, and you had a good friendship. You guys talked. But what was your favorite memory of Road Warrior Animal?
Nothing that stands out real funny because, we couldn't hang around together because we were opponents, we were enemies.
Right.
So, in the world and even in doing TV interviews, we had to, kind of keep it on the hush-hush. But nothing that stands out, just that he was an incredibly nice guy and would give you the shirt off his back if you asked for it. He was that generous.
No, absolutely. And that's the most important thing, especially, how you're remembered. And I feel like that's probably one of the best things that somebody could say about you is that you're willing to give everything for nothing. And that's probably the best way to remember somebody, at least in my opinion.
And it is, and Mike was the same way. They were both, Mike died way too young too, I'm sure. That was his heart blown out. But, they just lived life so, for years, I think, I don't know, till the late 90s, I forget when they left Vince, but, or retired. But, to do that for 20 years like they did, every night you're boom, 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 and you're working out and you're traveling. It takes its toll, man. A lot of guys, as you well know, we got 50 or 60 guys that died before they were 40 years old, It's just, it's a trying business. And, of course, there's a little bit of drug and tomfoolery going on the road and drinking and so forth. And it's people don't realize, I've been threatening if my brain doesn't go out, well, maybe I'll try to make a movie or a book about how it really was, and get the people in the car with you when you're driving 600 miles to make a town where you make $200,
Right. No, absolutely. And that's the name of the business, I feel like.
Yep.
That is the name of the business. Oh, man. Well, Steve, like always, thank you for joining us today and, sharing some memories of Road Warrior Animal. It's always great to hear these stories, especially, like you said, he was gone too soon. I know he was getting up there, but still gone too soon, of course. And, we send our condolences to the families, but we really appreciate you for taking the time to share some memories with us. And it's always a pleasure, of course.
No problem, man. Anytime.
If you are looking for the best books, DVDs, and posters on classic wrestling nostalgia, then you want to visit crowbarpress.com. There are literally dozens of titles there, including biographies of the likes of Bruiser Brody, Ole Anderson, Ivan Koloff, and of course, Dick the Bruiser, as we've spoke about here on the Dave Dynasty Show. You want to visit crowbarpress.com for all of your classic wrestling nostalgia needs. Again, that is crowbarpress.com. Okay, and we're back. So the Warriors, at this time, they dropped the AWA tag title to Steve Regal and Jimmy Garvin. And their impact on wrestling at this point is clear. They look like a team who should be heels, but the crowd loved them. They got these huge pops when they came out. They were very green, but they covered that a lot with just a smash mouth style, right? They just came in, they brutalized guys, and beat them quick. Promoters were very wise in the way they approached them. They put them in these squash matches. they were kind of chaotic, right? They would just charge the ring. They'd go at the guys. They'd beat on them for a couple minutes, hit the doomsday device, and it would be over. It got them over. They'd come over and they'd cut these energetic, intense promos. And then you had manager Paul Ellering with him, which was kind of the balance to him, right? He was very methodical. He's very calm. He was very professional with the way he approached. And it was just a great, great package. It was a great look. It was it was just great, right? It worked very well. And their style was such an influence on so many, from the face paint, from the big bodybuilder style, to the approach, in the ring, the intensity. They knew their worth, right? They knew what it was. They were there to make money, and they knew that their stock was rising. So soon after losing the tag titles, the AWA, they move on. They'd already done some work with Crockett Cup, for Jim Crockett, because the AWA and NWA had been promoting some stuff together to try to battle the WWF and Vince McMahon. They were getting in this feud with the Koloffs and the Russians, because there was also Crusher Khrushchev in the mix. So they officially jump over to the Mid-Atlantic area to Jim Crockett Promotions, and from there they go, it goes even higher, right? They had more opportunities there. They were making more money there, and they were a huge, huge attraction in the area. They were feuding with the Koloffs, which is just natural, right? There was a lot of big, imposing looking guys in the ring beating on each other. It worked so well. So they go in April 19th, 1986. They win the first Crockett Cup Tournament, which was a huge deal. Lots of coverage by the wrestling magazines. You couldn't open a magazine or look at the cover of a magazine without seeing the Road Warriors with the cup and everything else. And it just cemented the fact in a lot of people's minds that they were the best tag team in professional wrestling at that time. They also had a feud with the Midnight Express, and at Starrcade 86, they defeated the Express in a scaffold match with the infamous Jim Cornette dropping from the scaffold, which, blew his knees and gave him lots of problems for years.
Baby Doll walks around with the Midnight Express and Big Bubba talking about the scaffold.
That's right, Tony's ready. Tonight, Cleveland, Ohio, scaffold match. I saw Baby Doll out here. She's talking about herself and Jim Cornette. Well, there isn't very much difference between Baby Doll and Jim Cornette's femininity. They're kind of the same thing. Now tonight, Cleveland, Ohio, we're the guys that said what we were going to do, and we did it. Cornette got in our face, and we put him out of wrestling for a long while. Midnight Express, you two morons, you're next. And Baby Doll, if you don't have any chances, remember, we're the guys that don't care. You want to get involved in our scaffold, you climb up. Because either Hook or myself, I'll throw you right off, right, brother? Hey, that's right, Animal. Tony Schiavone. Do you know how every other tag team in professional wrestling rates himself? They go up against the Warriors because then they know whether they're men or boys. And a matter of fact, they've all turned out to be boys because we're the only men in this sport. Now, high upon the scaffold, the Skywalkers, Animal, Hawk, and Precious Paul, way up 30 feet over the ring. You think we're going down? Not a chance. At the end of that match, it's going to be Hawk, Animal, Precious Paul waving to the crowd. It's going to be two more guys, the Midnight Express, grabbing their legs from the impact of hitting that net. And speaking of legs, you tried to read their mind, and it didn't work. Well, it's not going to work. But I'll tell you what, when you plummet 30 feet, you feel that ring, and you feel your knees buckle. You're going to be right along in the bed in the hospital with Cornette, and your legs hanging up in the stinking air because you can't take it, and we can.
Tony Schiavone, I was listening to Baby Doll. I find it very interesting that you said she's out of control. Well, Baby Doll, you are, because you're a population explosion all by yourself. Now, Tony Schiavone, I want to also reiterate, along with the scaffolds and the bunkhouses around the country, I've signed a lot of six-man title matches with Dusty Rhodes as a partner with the Road Warriors, and we're looking forward to defending those titles.
Okay, Paul Ellering and the Road Warriors.
So the Warriors are in the NWA, and they're doing their thing. And in 1988, they turn heel on Sting. Dusty Rhodes was their six-man partner. He was out for a bit, and Sting filled in for them. And they turned on Sting in attack to set up a feud with the Road Warriors against Sting and Lex Luger. So you kind of had, this team that was by now had really established and entrenched themselves going against the young upstart guys who were the flashy supposed future of the business. It was their heel run was great, but it didn't seem to sink, at least not with me as a fan, and I believe lots of others. People still like the Warriors, right? They still cheer the Warriors. It was almost impossible to get them over as heels, because when they turned heel and they did things that a quote unquote heel would do, the people just loved them more, right? The people loved that style. It didn't change, right? They were still coming in there and brutalizing guys. They were still cutting these intense promos. It was the same deal, the same Road Warriors as they had before.
Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of questions have been unanswered from the Road Warriors. We're going to address the situation momentarily, but gentlemen, I'd like to preface this by a little story that happened just a few days ago. As I was leaving the building in Richmond, Virginia, after what you did to Sting, this little guy came up to me, must have been 7 or 8 years old, and he had his face all painted. As a matter of fact, his face is painted just like yours, Animal. He tugged me on the coat and he said, Mr. Ross, why did both the Road Warriors beat up their friends? Why did both Road Warriors beat up their friends? And a lot of journalists around the country are asking these questions, but out of the mouths of babes. Here's an 8-year-old kid. How do you answer that? The 8-year-old kid was sniveling? Looks like he'd been crying? Well, first of all, let me talk to that kid's dad. You ought to be slapped for bringing up a little whining rat like that anyways. Listen, the Road Warriors have always been called upon to help people. Well, when have you ever seen us call somebody for help? Never. And you never stinking will, because we don't need help. You see, the NWA and every wrestler in it, at one time or another, has asked me and Animal or Precious Paul for help. While we were helping you, what were you doing for us? What have any of you ever done for us? Not a stinking thing. So that's what we're going to do for the rest of you. Not a stinking thing. And that is good for us and bad for you. You know something, Jim Ross? Back to that little kid. What Sting did, he didn't just kick one of us off. He kicked both of us off by digging one of our faces. That's why we took care of him. Then Luger, you did not belong. Will you or anybody else comes in the ring and crushes anything the Legion of Doom does? Jim Ross, we don't second guess. We don't look back at what happened. What happened, happened. Like Dusty Rhodes said, we make our own bed. But Dusty Rhodes, you gotta be in that bed, and we're gonna kick you out. Aren't you concerned a little bit? You're a very rational, intelligent man. We got an 8-year-old crying because of what the Road Warriors did. How do you feel about it? I think he has to put it in perspective. Later on in life, he'll be able to understand that the reason we've done what we've done is because the bottom line, kid, is money. It's not charity. That charity didn't pay Dusty Rhodes like every time we do a charity event, we get paid for it. We're not dumb like Dusty Rhodes or Lex Luger or Sting would be. You see, they do it for nothing. We at least got the brains and intelligence enough to charge for our charity work. Well, it'll be a charge, all right, when Sting and Luger meet the Road Warriors. And now, fans, let's go back to the ring.
But one thing they did get from this heel run is they did finally get a reign as the NWA Tag Team Champions on October 29th, 1988 at a house show. They beat the Midnight Express for the tag titles. They would hold them for a while before eventually losing them to the Varsity Club in some scrupulous matters, which led to a tag team title tournament, et cetera, et cetera. So they were establishing themselves. They were in Georgia. They had the national tag titles. In the AWA, they held the world tag titles. In the NWA, now they had held the tag titles. Well, there was only one trophy left to put in there to really complete and cement their legacy as the top team of all time. And they were soon to dive into that quest for that prize when on July 15th, 1990, they made their WWF, at that time, television debut.
There's two people there that just don't care. Legion of Doom making their debut here on Wrestling Challenge. They've come here to the World Wrestling Federation with only one thing in mind, Ray. Yeah, to kick some people around. They want the gold currently around the waist of Demolition.
So then, about a year later, they feuded with Demolition, who had lost the tag titles to the Hart Foundation at SummerSlam. So they did the obvious feud a little bit with Demolition, which was now a 3-man team. The Road Warriors often had the Ultimate Warrior on their side for some 6-man matches. But then the next year, August 26, 1991, that SummerSlam of that year, the LOD completed the trifecta when they won the WWF Tag Team titles from the Nasty Boys.
Nasty Boys, we hold here before you one of the most treasured prizes of the World Wrestling Federation, the Tag Team belt, and we ain't ever giving them back to you. You know something, Nasty Boys? You know what we can't stand besides everything? You. How many beatings must you two take from the two of us before you realize that your life in professional wrestling is soon to be down the drain?
Now later, they tried this comedy bit where they had Paul Ellering back with them. They brought in this ventriloquist dummy called Rocco. It was a horrible mess. It didn't really air on TV. And Hawk got very frustrated, and he left the WWE after SummerSlam 1992. Went to Japan, did some work there. Animal stuck around because they had contractual obligations of things they had to do. So Animal stuck around to complete and fulfill their contract. Teamed with Crush a lot, who had turned face and left Demolition. And so you kind of had this period of a split with the Road Warriors. There was Hawk was very erratic and Animal was very level-headed. And, so there was, I won't say there was a rift between them, but there was, obviously, when you have two guys that work together and spend so much time together, there's going to be moments of tension. So, Animal did his thing, Hawk did his thing, and then in 1995, they came back to WCW, and this whole time period of these last few years of the LOD, I'm not really going to go in depth because to me, it was a very odd period. It's like no one knew how to book the Road Warriors. They were killing the mystique about them. They were killing the powerhouse team. They weren't letting them do their thing. And it was just kind of a mess. In 95, they go back to WCW. In 97, they go back to WWE. There's lots of odd things that happened with, trying to update the look of the team and having Sonny manage them and all these weird things. And it was just a mess. Years later, October 19th, 2003, Hawk had died. Animal continued to work on his own for a bit. He teamed with Heidenreich in the WWE, won the tag titles in what was supposed to be an updated Legion of Doom. But, obviously things were different, things were the same. But Animal, Animal was still Animal, right? He still worked. That style still looked great. And still had that personality. It was still a consummate professional. And the team was rewarded on April 2nd, 2011. They were inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame. Paul Ellering and Animal were both there for that. And after Hawk died, a lot of what Animal did professionally, he dedicated to the memory of his partner Hawk, and that's the kind of guy Animal was. He was a family man. He was very loyal to his friends. He was very much a business professional and a very nice guy. A great guy. So he is truly missed. He passed away on September 22nd. And Animal will forever be missed. He's yet the next piece of this chapter in wrestling history that's getting away from us, and that's why it's important to cover the history of these guys, and it's important for them to tell their stories while they can, whether it be in a book, whether it be in a shoot interview, whether it be in a podcast, whether it be in appearances, whatever it might be. It's important for them to document their legacy and their stories. And that's what we hope to help to do here on the Dave Dynasty Show. And we thank you for listening today. We thank Steve Regal for coming on and sharing his memories. And like I said, I didn't want to give you this huge in-depth telling of every single match they ever had or anything like that. I just want to kind of give you an overview of their career and just take a few moments today to reflect and remember the career and life of Road Warrior Animal. We do thank you for joining us. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at The Dave Dynasty. You can also look me up and the show up on Facebook and on Instagram. We are on both those places. Thank you for listening. Until next time, wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.